there's a few concepts that I want you to take note of. The big concepts. The first thing is, whenever you're confronted with a payment certificate, you will have a couple of items that you need to look at. Firstly, you have to know that each payment certificate is basically a measurement of all of the works. So you're measuring all of the work for a particular payment certificate, and then after that you subtract the previous payment certificates that you've measured. So you measure everything in full and you subtract everything from your previous payment certificates from this payment certificate. So as we go through it, you will understand what I mean by that. Then the P's and G's are usually based on the value of work done, and in your case I will usually give the P's and G's, so you don't have to worry about the P's and G's. Also, as a side note, which I haven't put down here, for you there will only be one bill that you usually look at. There will not be more than one bill, although on the summary sheet you will have to add and subtract all of the items whenever you do that. Okay, so and then each bill BOQ is measured separately and carried over to the summary sheet. Okay, so the first step is to measure the BOQ, the items, bill items. It's usually given in percentages, and then the value of the summary sheet is carried over to the valuation sheet, and then which is done by the QS. So we're not going to focus on this basically because this is a repetition of the actual payment certificate. You will most probably be in the position of the principal agent on the project, so you will sign off the payment certificates. So this is what we're going to focus on. The valuation and the payment certificate is exactly the same, so there's no difference, it's just a signature. So the valuation sheet is just a proposal by the QS, and then you've got the actual payment certificate, and this is on the JBCC contract that this is based. US principal agent will sign. So this is what we're going to look at. So in summary, you will have three different sheets that you're going to populate. Firstly, you're going to have the BOQ. Let me just mark this in blue. You will have the BOQ, and then you will have the summary sheet, and then you will have the payment certificate. So those are the three sheets that you need to populate within with every payment certificate. Okay, so the typical layout of the question will be something in the following. You are given the following information of items that has been measured. So the first thing that you need to establish is where everything is measured. So the question will state that this is month 1, that the progress certificate is done. So you will have the following information. So you will see on the summary sheet the P's and G's is given at 5%, and then you have the second bill, which is in our case the earthworks. So we're going to look at earthworks particularly in this instance, and then it will give you the items of item 1 is measured to up to 90%, and item 2 is measured up to 2%, item 3 is 90, etc., and continuing like this. Also note that in the exam I will not ask this many items. This is just for practice purposes that I've listed them, and as I go through the video you will actually notice how everything works into each other. So I just wanted to show you how things will look whenever you do that measurement. So given if you get the percentages of work actually done per item, it's a lot of the work already done. So I've added here a item here on the measurement. So I just made a bit of a mistake. This should be in length. So take for instance if we've got a simple building layout like we've got here. So after month 1 they've done all the trenches, and you need to measure everything that they have that has to be paid to the contractor. So we're busy with earthworks. So if we go to our earthworks, we basically measure the amount of work that's done. So usually you've got a set of photos and some measurements that you've done. For instance, you might have the measurements of the depth of the actual excavations, the width of the actual excavations, etc. Then you can go back to the drawing and actually measure it on the drawing as well. So I'm just going to do a quick measurement of the building. So we're measuring the strip footing. Please don't, this is not how it's usually done, so I just want to show you for practical purposes. So this is typically what we do. You've got your existing drawing, and then you measure the amount of strip footing that has been excavated. So I'm just going to take the exterior walls and do the measurement for that. Okay, and then take it over to our BOQ. Okay, so we've got our exterior strip footing. Let me just correct that one. Okay, and then we'll switch over to line. So I'm just working from a drawing which isn't that accurate. Usually if the line settings and everything is in place, then one doesn't have this problem of actually using the snap tool. Okay, there we go. Okay, so we've measured 57 meters of strip footing for our building. So now what we can do is we can calculate and go to our bill of quantities and see how much actually has been measured, and then calculate the percentage of work actually done. So in the next little section we'll actually look at that. So this is typically what the QS does. He goes to site and he measures all the work, and he measures the actual work done. He compares it to what he's measured in the BOQ and calculates the percentage of how much work for that particular item he can actually use. So this is just a very quick introduction to how that works, how the percentages is actually calculated. So when he gets back into the office, he calculates all his measurements. Okay, and so he's measured all of his work on site. Okay, the P's and G's I'll get to just now. So in his bill item, you will see there will be sections. I'll explain the sections now when I get into the actual payment certificate. So you will have your section 1, bill 1, which is our earthworks in this case. Item 1 we measured, for instance, now external. We'll get, when we get to the BOQ, we will actually see which bill of this or which item this is actually. So we've measured the exterior strip footing, and we established that 90% of the strip footing has been done. Then you go to item 2, which is your maybe your your backfill back into the trenches or so, and you've measured 90%. So all of these percentages will be given to you, so you don't have to worry of actually going and measuring all of these items. For me, it's more important that you know how it works, what the concept is of how a payment certificate is actually done. So okay, so all of these items up to item 30 has been measured, and then now in the next little slide we'll actually get into the payment certificate. Okay, so here we've got our payment certificate 1. So we've got 3 sheets again. We've got our valuation. You will see this is the valuation sheet, or this can be your payment certificate as well. So whether it's the valuation or the payment certificate, it will look exactly the same. You will still have the same template. You've got your employer on this side, your contractor, your works, the site, everything given in your valuation, and it will look exactly the same. So for our purposes, we're going to use the valuation sheet because it's been set up like this, but this can be your payment certificate one. So you can have payment certificate one or payment certificate, which just means that in the end the person that signs here at the bottom will be the principal agent and not the QS. Okay, so we'll get into this first, or later on, how this is actually calculated. Then you've got your second sheet, which is your summary sheet, and your summary sheet has all of the items, all of the bill items, and here you will see that you've got your section 1, which contains your preliminaries, section 2, which includes your building, so this is your building work, section 2, and then you've got your bill 1, bill 2, bill 3, etc. So you've got your earthworks up to your provisional sums. Okay, and then we've got a subtotal for section 2. Okay, and then we've got our external works, which was also measured provisionally. So we've got external works measured here, and then we've got electrical work, which was done by the electrical engineer. Okay, so this is a typical layout. We'll get into the other items here as we go along. Okay, so let's go to our payment certificate or our bill item. So I've highlighted section 2, bill item, or bill 1, which is our earthworks. And if you see this provisional, this is just a side note. It just means that this bill is done provisionally, which means that it is remeasurable. These days, people like to keep the entire bill remeasurable because you don't really know exactly. It depends on how much information you've got whenever you do your bill of quantities. Okay, so getting into our first item. So if you go back to our question, you can see item 1 we measured 90%, item 2 90, etc. So what I've done is I've just carried all of these amounts to our bill so that we can actually have a look at how it is calculated. So in our quantities we had for our first item is digging up and removing topsoil, rubbish, vegetation, etc. So it's basically just site clearance that we're talking about. So just to zoom in a little, so we've got our items, or our first bill item measured here. We've measured 2,766 square meters and at the rate of 5 Rand per square meter. Okay, just to clear this site. Okay, and then the amount that was tendered is 13,800 for this item. So you will see what happens is this section of the bill is what the contractor actually measured or provided or quoted, if you want to call it that. So this is during the tender process the amount for earthworks that the contractor came to. So 401,229 Rand. So this is an old project that we worked on, and so these bill rates are rates that were that was done in 2014. I think is the relevant date for these rates that's in here. So basically what then happens is you add, after the tender's been closed, we set up a little section here where you have a calculation of your work done. You have a slot for your previous certificate, and you've got a slot for your for this certificate, and then you have a cumulative to this certificate. So remember, you always work towards your cumulative certificate, so the total amount of work that's actually been done on this project. Okay, so just to move out, so we've measured 90% of this item has been done. So we put in 90% here, 90 there. Okay, so you will see it calculates 90% of the total amount. So it's just those two times with each other. Okay, and then you've got for this certificate, so you calculated the amount for this certificate, and then cumulative to this certificate. So in the next payment certificate 2, you will actually see that pardon, we actually calculate the total amount first and then subtract the previous amount. So this formula should actually be 90% times the total amount. Okay, and then this formula should actually be the total amount minus the previous one. Okay, and in our instance, payment certificate 1 is very easy because there's no previous certificate that needs to be subtracted. And then you basically just do that for all of your items. So I've just added everything here on the sideline. So I'm just going to copy and paste this. So obviously within the test you won't have this luxury. But just for our explanation purposes, this is what happens. So what you've got is the percentage complete times your total amount to get to your payment certificate. Okay, just see that I've while copying and pasting it just took out this nice little line, so this divider line. So I'm just going to put this back. Okay, so there we've got all our totals for our payment certificate. So we've got our items here. Okay, now I can bring it back. So item 7, we've measured 90%, etc., exactly as what the question stated here. So we've got that done. And then what we do is we add everything up down to the bottom. We will see what this payment certificate looks like, and then what the cumulative payment certificate amount is. So this is the amount that you take over to your summary sheet. Very important, it's your cumulative amount that you take to your payments or to your summary sheet. Okay, so you add everything up, take this amount to your summary sheet, and you add it in here. Okay, so you will see all of the other items is blank because there was no work done on those. And then we get to our first item, payment certificate, or our P's and G's, which is 5%. So what you do is you calculate 5% of your total allowed P's and G's. So you've got that one times 5%, or if you want 5 divided by 100, and there you go, there's your payment certificate. Okay, so very straightforward, very easy on Excel. Yes, I know this is not exactly what you're going to get in the exam. So what I've done in the exam is I just limited the amount of actual calculations that you have to do, just to save you time, but still I'm going to test the concepts. Okay, so getting to the columns, I'm just going to zoom in here again. Okay, let's have a look at our preliminaries. So what we've got is our preliminaries, and we've got then we've got material on site, material off site, these items you don't have to worry about, and I think I've actually blanked them out in the question in the exam, so you don't have to worry about that. Okay, so I'm just going to hide them. They're not relevant for us. Then you get to your current valuation. So if you've got material on site, that is usually added to get your current valuation. Then you've got your retention amount. In our case, it's 10%. It depends. The new contract actually has different percentages allocated to it. So this retention amount is just the amount that the client retains for any insurance if the contractor, for some other reason, doesn't do his job properly, or if he has to be put off of site or so, then the client actually has this amount in hand to appoint another contractor, or to get someone else to rectify it, or just to keep it as an incentive at the end of the project so that the contractor can actually come back and do the last bit of rectification work or so. So this is subtracted from each payment certificate, and you will see your current valuation. Then you've got your current valuation amount, which is just your current valuation minus your retention to get to the amount of 39,000. Contract price adjustment, this is the CPAP that I've been talking about. Also, I won't ask this, so it won't be applicable, but I'm going to keep this column in here, but that will always be a 0. Then you get your gross valuation, which is then your current valuation amount minus or add any contract adjustment which might occur to get your gross valuation amount. And then you get to an item less your previous certificate. So your previous certificate is always subtracted from your previous payment certificate that you add into this column. So in the next payment certificate, we will have a look at this. Okay, so then we've got our net amount. So this net amount is your gross valuation minus your previous certificate to get you to your net amount, and then you add VAT of 15% on that to get to your amount of this valuation. Okay, so then after you've done that, it is a simple thing of just adding up your sections. If you do not have sections, and I've tried to not use sections in the question paper, is then you basically just add up everything. So just be mindful of this. So you've got the two options. You've got sections where you can actually add up the sections first, and then when you add up everything to the bottom, you only add up the sections. Whereas if you don't have sections, you simply just add up everything onto this. So what will happen if you've got sections, you will see it's just the sections that's added together. Okay, so in this instance, we've got our P's and G's, and also our total amount of earthworks that's been done. Okay, so that's more or less how that works. So this is your summary sheet, and then very importantly, from here on, carrying the amount over to your payment certificate, it's very important to carry over the correct amount to your payment certificate. So we're going to repeat many of these items on our payment certificate. So it's a bit of a repetition, but it's also a check that we build in whenever we do a payment certificate. So a summary sheet that we've got here and our payment certificate has to add up together, or has to add up to make sure that everything has been done correctly, because it's so easy to make a calculation error or formula error working on Excel or doing it by hand or so. So what we've done now is a value of work executed. You bring it forward to your valuation or payment certificate. So our valuation of work executed is the total amount that's actually been been done. So everything just before your retention amount is carried over, so, and before VAT. So in our instance it is 288,000. So we bring that forward. We didn't have sorry, pardon me, before material on site. You will see here's the repetition again. So you take your value of work done before VAT, that's added up here, you bring it forward, you add material on site and material off site if there's any, and then you add these ones together. Okay, so your security adjustment, yes, you've got security adjustment, so it's 10% that we add, subtract from that. So times 90%. Okay, and I see this, I should just rectify. Okay, so you've got your 90% of that total amount. Then you've got your other security adjustments, which we don't have. So you will see the net contract amount and a couple of amounts that's added here that we're not going to worry too much about. Okay, so we've got our net contract amount, authorization variations. There's no variations on our project. Contract price adjustment also not applicable. So we just carry over this amount to our gross valuation. Okay. And then we've got our expenses and loss due to the employer. None of these have been added, so this is all according to the contract. So a couple of contract items. So we've got penalties due to the employer, we've got damages due to the contractor if the contractor is due any amount. So what we do, sorry, so your previous payment certificate, we first need to subtract here. So we take our amount of our previous certificate less amount previously paid out. Okay, this will become applicable in our next payment certificate. So minus 0. Okay, so we've got our new net amount certified. We subtract and add any of these items due to the employer or the contractor, and in our instance there's nothing applicable. So VAT is then added, 15% is then added on the subtotal here, and then if there's any interest due to the client or the employer, it's added here. Interest due to the contractor, it's also added here, and then we've got our total amount due, and we'll do a quick calculation just to see whether we've done everything correct. I hope everything's done correct. Okay, so amount due to the contractor, and also remember to tick the box of what the amount that's certified. So now the percentage of work actually done is based on the amount certified. So we've got our amount certified, so it's D7, the total amount certified divided by the total contract amount to get to our percentage. So the contract has paid out 2.4% of the total contract value, so then we can see that we need to tick the box here. I just can't make a tick very quickly without going out of the payment certificate, so I'm not going to show that. But usually when you have a paper drawing, you can just make or paper answer sheet, you can just do the tick in the applicable box. And that is more or less how the payment certificate works. We'll do another payment certificate now, payment certificate 2, and then we'll have a look at how everything adds up when we do that. So thank you everyone.